Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. You know, part of the fun of this website is finding cars that people have never really seen before, at least here in the States. Can you figure out what this one is? Give you a second. All right, it's the 1964 Volkswagen Type 34 Ghia. It's built by Carmen. It's not a Carmen Ghia, but it's built by Carmen, but it's a Ghia-bodied car. And it's, I think, quite a bit more luxurious than your standard Volkswagen. It's not a car that was available here in the States. It's pretty unusual. And it belongs to our sort of resident VW guy. He's kind of, well, you might remember him. He had his Volkswagen here a while ago. We got tons of comments on that. Matt Jacobson. Matt, come on in. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again, Jay.
You're an air-cooled guy, I think it's safe to say, huh? You like Porsches, early Volkswagens. And this is a car I was not familiar with. It was not sold here in the States, correct?
No, they were never offered available in the U.S., but a lot of servicemen brought them back, tourists brought them back, and in the early 60s, dealers didn't have a lot of inventory. They'd go to Germany and bring the car in.
Now, was the idea, or maybe the reason they didn't bring it in was because it was a luxury Volkswagen, and that was seen as kind of the opposite of what Volkswagen was doing here in the States?
Yeah, I mean, I think the stuff I've read about it, they didn't realize this car was going to be as successful as it was. It was introduced in 1961 at the Frankfurt Auto Show with the other Type 3s, so the square back, the notchback, and the fastback.
Right.
And this is on the same pan as the Type 3.
Oh, it is? It is. Okay.
So the regular Ghia, the Carmen Ghia, is on a Beetle pan.
Right.
This is on a Type 3 pan, so it's a little bigger, has a back seat where the Carmen Ghia doesn't have a back seat.
Right.
So this car was expensive. I mean, it had a lot of options that Volkswagen had never offered before. Fog lamps on the front, a stereo. In some countries, this car was as expensive as 2 Beetles.
Oh, so safe to say if they had brought this into the States, it probably would have been the same price as what, a Mustang or something of that nature?
Yeah, and it would have been competing directly with a Corvair.
Right, okay.
So, and kind of it has this look, of kind of a BMW early 2002,
yeah,
or 1600 and a Corvair.
Yeah, it's a good looking car. And Carmen built bodies for a lot of different people, didn't they? Yeah. Not the most rust-proof cars, as I remember.
No, that's why I feel really lucky that this one, I mean, I've gotten lucky with my 55 Beetle that we had. I mean, that car had no rust, and this car was really solid, and I looked for a long time, and, very hard to find. And they've either been really modded out and slammed, or they're really rusty.
Now, you found this one here in the States or in Europe?
No, I found it here.
Okay.
I found it here.
And did the owner know what he had?
He did. He's one of the great Type.
Everybody knows what they have.
There's no secrets. He's one of the great Type 3 guys. He's a guy named Alex Pagato that owns ISP West in Carson.
Okay.
And he knew that I was looking for a Type 34 Ghia, and he was very quiet about it. I mean, this went on for months, and he has a big shop in Carson, and a lot of cars covered up. And I looked, and I lifted a cover, and I saw it, and I said, I can't believe you have this car and I've been looking for one. He goes, oh, it's not for sale. So he knew I was relentless, and I ended up with the car.
Now, were these ever available with a 5-speed, or were they always just 4-speed?
Always a 4-speed.
Always a 4-speed. And the running gear is standard Volkswagen of the period, correct?
Well,
it wasn't, because it was a heavier car and a bigger car, did it have more horsepower?
Yeah, it came with this was the beginning of the 1500 engine for Volkswagen. So that transition to that bigger motor with the Type 3s. This car has been upgraded with a 1776, so it's about 75 horsepower from the 45 that the 1500 would have.
And so this one has been restored. You told me it's the original color, but not the original paint. Is that correct?
It was painted in the 80s, lovingly by a guy who was a well-known Volkswagen restorer and collector, and owned a shop called Bill and Steve's in Pasadena. Bill owned it and ultimately sold it to Alex, who I got it from.
Right.
But the car originally was imported by a dealer in Hemet, Victory Motors in Hemet. Brought the car in here in '64 and was sold to a gentleman named Murray. That's all I know. And Murray owned it till the mid-'80s, and then he sold it.
You know, the 60s are a great time because you could bring anything in. If you found something in Europe, you just ship it over here. Now you've got to have all this, do not drink contents of battery stickers and all the other kind of stuff. And the things that keep a car. A friend of mine tried to bring a car and it got stuck at the port because he didn't have the unleaded only gas
Oh,
thing
God.
on the, but the car was fine. No, they had to wait and get the one from the manufacturer just for
Right.
months to put the stupid sticker on.
Well, I think servicemen used to be able to bring cars back.
That's right, yeah,
For
yeah,
free.
yeah.
So a lot of these came back. Servicemen saw them, but it's such a pretty car, and it was such a luxurious car for the time, and has some really great stuff. I mean, I just love the roof line.
The roof line is unusual, and you put the Venetian blind. Was that something available at the period too?
They were available. It was a dealer option. These are. I've kind of tracked down Venetian blinds for my squareback. I had them on my Beetle that you saw that was here, and then
Right.
finding these for this car, tracked them down in Australia because Venetians were a thing in Australia.
Is that right? Yeah, that's funny. Now brakes are what? Four-wheel drum.
No, these actually been upgraded to front wheel disc.
Oh, you upgraded it?
I
or-
didn't. Bill.
Oh. Well,
Bill
what I
did
mean
it.
is it didn't come
Originally drum.
was four-wheel drum. Okay, so discs in the front. How much heavier is it than the standard Type 3?
Quite a bit. I mean, it's
Yeah.
quite a bit bigger. Well, than a Type 3. It's probably the same as let's say a squareback. Or
2,600 pounds, something like that. 2,700.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'd be
Okay.
guessing, but
yeah, yeah.
But it's nice. It has three. One of the big marketing things of this car was that you had three storage areas. You have a small trunk in the back.
Right.
You have the regular, good-sized trunk in the front, and then the back seat folds down, so you have storage there as well.
And can you go all the way through the
You
back?
can.
Oh, okay. Let's show them what we're talking about here. And I love the dual exhaust. It makes it look like you got some kind of Corvair or little Chevy V8 there.
Well, no, it's luckily this, Bill was also a collector of stuff, and that's an original Abarth
Wow.
performance exhaust, which sounds really good and gives you a little extra performance.
Cool, cool.
So that's a cool
Yeah,
feature.
show them what we're talking about this
Okay.
trunk.
So you have a small trunk here.
Yeah, so if you collect onion paper, you could just
Yes,
put
yeah,
a couple of
yeah.
stacks of paper in there.
Slides.
Yeah, but that's cool. You get a little extra trunk.
A little trunk there, and then it's got the Pancake Motor
Right.
here.
Well,
And
there you
what's
go. Look
nice-
at that. Wow.
And so what's nice about this motor, it's a bigger motor than the stock 1500, it's a 1776, so a little more horsepower. But this car had been converted to 12 volt. So what's great is keeping all these things so it's looking like a 6-volt motor wasn't easy. So they did a really good job in doing that.
Yeah. But God, these are all unique pieces, aren't they?
Right.
To this. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's nicely done. isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
really nice. It's just a good design.
And do not put gas in here.
Do
right?
not do that. That's where the oil goes.
That's your oil goes. Okay. God, you wonder how many people have done that.
I'm sure many people.
yeah.
As many people who put diesel into a gas car.
Yeah, I
have
know
done that.
I'm not going to say who he is. A guy I know has a Miura. I know what he's thinking. He pulls into the gas station, and he opens the eyebrow over the headlight where the gas goes, and he put water in, thinking it was the radiator, and he knew. He just said, I don't know whether a pretty girl walked by. I don't know what happened, and he put water in, and he's doing. He went, hey, ah! So you can see how you can make that mistake. God, look how compact. Very cool. What country did this car come from originally? Do you know?
Yeah, it was imported from Germany to
Okay.
and sold, even though you couldn't sell it as a new car.
Right.
It was sold by Victory Motors in Hemet as a no-mile used car.
Because I remember you told me about on the front here.
I think that was something that Bill, the parts collector,
So this
added.
normally wouldn't go here?
It would normally have a side marker there.
Oh, okay.
So, a turn indicator side marker. The other things he did, so what's interesting, converting the car to 12 volt, it's still a push button dash.
Right.
So, and those are generally 6 volt setups.
I don't really have any problem with 6 volts. I mean, everybody feels they have to convert. You really don't. In fact, there are a number of people, companies who will take your 6-volt generator
Right.
and convert it to a 6-volt alternator. It'll look exactly the same,
Right.
but the internals will be an alternator, so you're making plenty of power. I don't really feel the need you have to change it all the time. But I guess I don't know.
No,
why
I've
people do.
got several 6-volt cars, and all the battery tenders now are all both 6 and 12. So.
Yeah, you just have to use 6-volt wire. The difference
Right.
between 6-volt wire and 12-volt wire. 6-volt wire is thicker.
Right.
Can we open the hood? Let's see the
Sure.
front trunk. See how big that is. Oh, there you go. I'm surprised the trunk is so shallow, actually. I thought it'd be a little deeper.
Yeah, and there's plenty of room though, because you have, I mean, this is pretty good size for
Right, and the
for
gas
Volkswagen.
tank is underneath.
Gas tank here.
Which
you know,
is,
the filler here, gas tank
yeah.
underneath.
I mean, imagine doing that now. You have your gas tank right in the front.
Well, you're protected by the spare tire.
Oh, the spare tire is your airbag. Is that it? Yeah, yeah. Because this is what Ralph Nader went crazy about when he went after Volkswagen, with the gas tank was right in the front. Cool.
So some other interesting stuff. It's got, you know, Marshall headlamps,
Right.
which are
Now, Marshall were French headlamps.
French headlamps.
Now, were those only in France, or did they?
I think, you know, enthusiasts were probably interested in them. They were. It's a different
Okay.
light pattern. It's a great looking.
So they didn't leave
bezel.
the factory. They didn't leave Germany with French
No.
headlights. No, no.
No. And then, you know, there were both the clear and, you know, amber fog lamps for
Right,
this car.
okay.
I found the set of amber lenses for this, and I put those on.
Now, the French cars used to have yellow headlights,
Right.
didn't they? Yeah. See, like my Bugatti over there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, boy, it's a very pretty car. It really does have a lot of sort of early BMW look to it also.
You know, these like, you know, and it has a lot of nicknames. They called, you know, the Razor's Edge because of this.
Right.
These are called Whiskers. You know, some people call them Whiskers, but it's a beautiful, I think just a beautiful car.
And it's funny to see a car from this era with no grill, you know, so used
Right.
to having where the air flows and cools the radiator, you know.
Right.
That kind of thing. And these are interesting. I didn't think they were doing this
Yeah,
early.
I'm sure that that's not an original.
probably later, huh?
That's a later edition.
And the interior is really,
Yeah, it's original. I mean, it's original. It was originally a Terra Brown car with an ivory top, and this is the original interior.
now these seatbelts, were these put in later as
I
well?
put the seatbelts in later. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's my one. As much as that car's original, a seatbelt is my
Yeah,
indulgence.
Yeah, these seats look very inviting. Can we take it for a ride?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. You know, it's funny that these cars have such a big greenhouse effect. There's so much windshield. You know, the one thing I don't like about the new Camaro is that the windows are squashed and it's so, you're kind of looking through a letterbox, whereas this, it's so open and airy.
No, it reminds me. I don't know if it's the 507 BMW from the 50s, the really collectible one, where it's got this very, the top's just kind of like sitting on top.
Yeah, yeah.
And the 300 SL Roadster,
Yeah.
same thing. But this is a car where you really need the Venetian blinds because it gets really hot back there.
Oh, I imagine it
So
would,
it
yeah,
actually
yeah.
works. The Venetians really work.
Well, the Venetians were a very innovative people.
Ahead of their time.
I used to be my father's favorite joke when I was a kid. You know, I didn't make a Venetian blind, poke him in the eye. You know, Dad, stop doing that. It's odd to sit sideways because I'm sitting this way because the wheels are right
yeah, everything's
here.
tucked in.
So that was the great thing of the McLaren. You sit in the middle here because almost all the, even my Countach, you kind of get into it sideways. You know.
Well, and this thing's weird when if you see it. First of all, it sits kind of nose high.
Yeah.
Which I like, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And you know the wheels are very inboard. You know, there's a big over. You know the you know I guess the the wheel length is significantly shorter than the overall length.
Right, right. And tell me about this steering wheel. You said this is off a 914 Porsche.
That's a 914 steering wheel, but it's unique in that it's before the Porsche crest was on the wheel. It's actually the Wolfsburg or the Volkswagen crest on the early.
Oh, that's right.
914
That's
wheel.
when Porsche didn't want to be so
Right.
associated with Volkswagen.
And actually, 914s have become really collectible. There's my Venetian blinds.
Yeah, the
as well.
Venetian blinds. This motor feels just about right for this car. It seems like the 1500 will almost be underpowered.
I think so. And anymore, it doesn't really need any more.
Yeah,
You know,
75.
75 is about right.
Yeah. And imagine you get Volkswagen gas mileage. Huh?
Yeah, it gets great mileage.
But he also had the AM/FM radio, which was a huge option back in
Yep,
the day.
it was a big deal.
You know, now you take it for granted, all that kind of stuff. But was the build quality as good on the Italian-built Volkswagens like this as it was on the German?
I gotta believe it's better.
Is
I
it
gotta
better?
believe it's better.
Yeah?
Because this car was not, this was the first kind of middle-class car that Volkswagen brought to market.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so, you know, the fear was it going to sell? Would people accept it? You know, I think I told you it was, you know, in some markets this car was twice, you could buy two Beetles
Right,
for the
right.
price of this car.
Right.
So I think there's the attention to detail just in how this is put together with upper and lower dash pads and
Yeah.
map pockets and The fit and finish is pretty great on this car.
Well, this is what I enjoy. You know, we do an awful lot of Camaros and Mustangs, and those are all great. But it's fun to find this unusual stuff most Americans haven't seen.
Right.
You know, because most Americans wouldn't think of Volkswagen as selling a luxury automobile. In fact, when they tried to have that, what was that Volkswagen?
The Phaeton?
The Phaeton with the V12. Beautiful car. I drove one for a couple of weeks. Very nice. Every luxury item you can imagine. And people go, that's a Volkswagen? How much is it? That much for a Volkswagen? I mean, you know, it's like when Americans go to Germany, they go, the Mercedes are taxis there.
Right.
They go, well, no, they build all kinds of cars.
Yeah, but it's a very I mean, I think it's of all the Volkswagens, it's pretty drivable, and it's nice to be in.
Oh yeah, it's very drivable. And the seats are a bit more luxurious than your standard
VW seats.
VW seats, yeah.
No, the whole thing, the full carpet set, the padded dash. I mean, it's quiet.
It's not the most padded dash I've ever seen, but
no, that's like, remember on the Mustangs, like 65 Mustang, that was considered a big safety item.
Yeah.
You know, or the Mercedes, the padded horn ring, that was the safety item.
Very funny. But you know, I'm saying to myself, well, this power steering is very light. There's no power steering. I mean, there's no weight on the front at all, so you could. It almost feels like one of those Chryslers from the '60s where you can twirl around with your finger.
Right.
I mean, look at that.
It's super light in the front.
Yeah.
I like that you're getting interested in air-cooled cars.
You know, it's so funny. From a practical point of view, if you're a collector, air-cooled cars make a lot of sense because there's no corrosion, there's no water pump that's all rotted out, you know, and water sits in the cylinders and eventually eats through it. I mean, air-cooled cars can sit for years.
Right.
I always remember that scene in Sleeper, the Woody Allen movie, where he goes into the future and the Volkswagen's in the cave. It's been sitting for like 380 turns. It runs. It starts. Yeah. That was funny. That probably sold more Volkswagens.
When you think about it, it was a pretty bold move for Volkswagen to make this car.
Yeah.
I mean, for all the reasons that you said. I mean, it was certainly out of sync with Transporters and Beetles, which are all that existed.
And you said they sold 45,000 of them.
45,000 of these between 61 and 69.
Wow. And it's all steel, no aluminum, right?
All steel.
Yeah. And one of the usual features of this car, if you're not used to cars in this period, you kind of sit sideways. So you got your wheel wells here, where obviously your tire is, so you've got to be offset a little bit. So you kind of sit in the car this way. But you get used to it pretty quickly. It's not uncomfortable, just a little bit different. Put this window up so we can hear. Now this steering wheel, as you said, this is off of what, a 914?
It's an early 914, and it had the Wolfsburg crest rather than the Porsche crest.
Okay.
And the very collectible Porsche guys love those wheels. So.
Well, let's see. What do we have? I love these square switches. Tell me about these.
So those are the push button switches. So that's
Are those raindrops?
Those are wipers.
Wipers?
Wipers, the intermittent wiper.
And what is it? Is this...
that's the dimmer.
Dimmer for the dash lights.
Dash lights.
This is headlights?
Yep. And
fog that's fog lights. That's headlights. Because this is fuel.
Yep.
This is speedo.
And a tach.
And the tach doesn't work.
Correct. I've been looking for a tach that works.
Well, you can get that rebuilt easy enough.
Yeah,
I know a good guy. This is emergency flash, and probably added later.
Right.
Cigarette lighter.
Yes.
AFM radio. This is what, heater,
vents.
defrost?
Yeah, vents.
Okay, right. And your clock.
Right.
And of course, glove box. And what's this? Oh, an ashtray. You gotta have an ashtray. And you can see these seats are pretty luxurious. And there's so much room here. It's so airy. It's quite comfortable. And you have your kind of minimal padded dash, but that's...
Safety item.
They did that back in '64, right?
Right.
Right, very cool. And these are padded as well. You got door pockets. What do we have down here? That's
the heater control.
Oh, heater controls, okay. This side too?
Yeah, that's the vent, and this is the temperature.
And then you have some vents down on the floor as well, correct? Did they give you the little vanity? Oh, look at that! That's another high-cost option. Look at that. Well, Well, I hope you enjoyed this little piece of Volkswagen history. I find this fascinating, you know. This is really kind of cool because the fun thing about this website is we get to show all kinds of vehicles. And this one is really unusual. Matt, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Jay.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
to see you.
Come on by. He's got lots of air-cooled stuff. We'll see Matt more over the years as he comes by with more unusual cars. So this one's really quite cool. See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.